Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our session about the difference between a sales process and a buying process. The whole session is inspired by a book by Martin R. Lewis called How Customers Buy, which I recommend you read. It is very detailed. I've got my own opinion on things, which is why what today is all about. And today is a part of a series of 3 sessions that we're going to do about the sales and the buying process, because it's such an important area that I think it needs some discovery. So today we're going to talk about we're going to look at the change to buying patterns, but then we're going to talk about the new role of sales and marketing, and then in the end we'll discuss mistakes that people are making and how to overcome them to ensure that that things work. So in terms of changes to the buying process, big question I have is what has been the most significant change to our work environment in the last 30 years, and that has to be the internet. And the internet has brought about a lot of changes, but within the buying environment, what it has done is allowed buyers to go and get a lot of the data themselves. So you don't actually need a salesperson to tell them and present to them and show them and explain to them. They can actually go about doing it all themselves. So a lot of the sort of the starting of a buying process, when people are searching and looking for solutions, can be done independently without actually the involvement of the incumbent companies that they're looking at. So does it mean that there is no need for salespeople and marketing? Absolutely not. I think that's absolutely not the case. It's just changed the dynamics between how a sales and a buying process works, and it's given a lot more control to the buyers, because essentially they drive it now. So depending on how they run the process, they can run a lot of it themselves. They can do a lot of the research, a lot of the verifying, a lot of the demos, etc. They can do themselves without having to actually engage with the salesperson that would come in and present to them, etc. So there has been quite a significant change that for some reason hasn't taken hold with a lot of companies. So a lot of companies aren't actually taking that into account in the way they run sales. So does that mean the sales process is completely redundant? Well, I think the main thing it means is that it has no value on its own. So just having a sales process and running all of your sales just based on your sales process alone has no value and will lead to a lot of forecasting and doing a lot of work that isn't actually going to lead anywhere. So what you have to do as a sales team now is to understand how your customers buy. Once you understood how your customers buy, then you can align your sales process with their buying process, ensuring that you give them what they want. So you will look at converting more, but also understanding a lot more. So your forecasting will be more accurate. Your understanding of what's happening will be more accurate. So it's actually, I think, a positive. It's not, I've seen sort of articles sort of saying that the salesperson is dead, that there's no need for salespeople anymore. I disagree with that. I think salespeople have a key role in this. It's just that just going through the stages of your sales process, saying, okay, they're a prospect and now they're a shopper because they bought something from us, or whatever it is, however you define it. If you do that in isolation from the market and the buying process, then you're not going to get very far. So what is the new role of sales? So I think that the key one and particularly for planning and for your sales plan and your strategy, you must understand how the sales process is aligned with the buying process. So there need to be some proper research of the market. You need to be asking questions of your prospects to make sure you completely get what they're looking for, what their concerns are, where they are in the buying process, who else makes decisions, who else is involved, and keep at it and make sure that you're a part of that buying process throughout. And your role as a salesperson and as a sales team would be to influence the buying process and moving it forward. So if If it's at a starting point where they're gathering data, you want to be able to sort of give them the data they need to try and make sure that they then move to their next step, which might be selecting sort of suppliers for interviews, etc. So it is about staying at it, understanding what's happening next, and influencing it, you know, to make sure that you get you get there and you're moving forward and hopefully win the project. And also another thing that's quite important is to understand that the buying process is often longer than the selling process. So I see a lot of people who go and see a prospectus client, put a proposal together. The person they're speaking to seems very happy with it, wants to take it on, but we then say, yeah, we want to move away to the next project. And what happens is that person is left with that proposal to move it through the organization and make it happen. And they often need more support from your company to be able to put it through. It might not be that the sales team is the one that should be doing all this support. It might be that you need to bring in a technical person to help them with different applications, but you need to be managing the buying process on your company's behalf and be staying with the prospect, and also talking to additional decision makers, moving it on, really understanding what's going on, keeping in touch, not just sort of going, okay, I've done my job, I can move on. So that's quite important as well. So the part that everybody's been waiting for is about big mistakes to avoid, and I think I've started to tackle some of them already. So, you know, don't focus on your sales process in isolation. It's all very lovely that you've got all your steps and they're all mirrored in your CRM, and you can move somebody from a suspect to prospect to shopper. But actually, if you're doing that in isolation to what's actually happening with the buying process, you're deluding yourself and you know, and others. And that takes me nicely on to the sales forecast. You know, because if you're forecasting based on the stages of your own sales process, which is taken in isolation, again, this is very inaccurate and doesn't really work. So we talked about letting go of the process too soon. There's always going to be buyers' concerns. I mean, you know, example could be if you're selling technology or sort of innovation. It might be that it is the best thing since sliced bread and is going to save them a lot of money, but actually they are concerned because they can't see how they're going to implement it in their business. Or they might be looking at it going, actually, I want to buy this product that I've always bought, that I know how to buy, that I know how it fits in, that we know how much it costs. We don't actually want innovation. So you've got to be really clear on what it is that people are looking for. You know, and give them that, rather than trying to sell something that they're going to be too worried to buy. And if you are trying to disrupt the market, you need to be aware of that, and you need to make sure that you are therefore addressing their concerns from the start around, you know, we're going to provide training, we're going to do this, that, and the other to mitigate the risk that they're seeing. So it's really important to understand that the buyers are in the driver's seat these days, and you've got to satisfy them to be able to sell. And another thing that I see people do is sometimes failing to reach out to all decision makers. So if you started speaking with the financial director, but actually the technical director and the marketing director are also involved, and you don't communicate with them, you carry on just talking to your one contact, you're missing out on understanding what other people want from the process, what their concerns are, what they see as value, and you could miss out on a sale because you're not talking to everybody that you should be talking to. So just some mistakes to avoid there. In terms of, you know, this webinar, this has covered everything today in terms of the difference between sales process and the buying process and how to approach that. But I know that there's a lot more to talk about in terms of understanding your target markets, in particular, how they buy, how do you go about understanding all of that. So in the next webinar we will run in March, we'll look at how you run market research, what questions you should ask, and also talk a bit about buying styles. So hopefully you'll be able to watch that then. And that is everything from us. Thank you very much. Goodbye.